To think about almost a year ago, I would go out and say that I don't really use iPads, and I basically said that like iPads to me weren't much of a useful device to me. I did a 180 a couple months back because I would go as far to buy a brand new iPad 10th gen back in October. Let's talk about it. Now, yes, this is my own personal iPad, and yes, you can see Thomas, and he looks pretty good. I'll just get over to the iPads, I'm sorry. So, Jesus Christ, it's way too warm in here. Why is it so warm? Now, I have owned this iPad for a couple months now, since I bought it back in October, with my last guy being the iPad Air in question, which came out from 2013. I mean, just gonna immediately say it that this guy is a lot better than the iPad Air. Clearly, it's a couple of years apart, almost a full decade actually, since this came out in 2013. But I mean, the first thing which I'll immediately say is I love the display, because it's almost a full display guy with a 10.9 inch when the iPad Air is just 9.4 inches, which it's a little bit more of lower resolution as well since it's a Retina display. I think this guy is a little bit higher resolution, I'm not entirely sure, which is unfortunate because I should learn this knowledge anyway. It's also way faster as well because it's got the A14 Bionic chip with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and this is the base model version, which is 64 gigabytes, and also this is the blue one. They had a bunch of other colors like the yellow, the white, and the pink, but I chose blue because I honestly feel like that the blue works with me, and this is also one of the only ones that they had at stock at the time. Like, I will say that I would prefer the iPad mini out of all things because, well, the size itself, like I've always said it, that I would prefer the iPad mini because of how small it is. This to me just is really nice with like, it feels nice. It doesn't feel like it's like too big. I mean, I honestly felt like for the iPad Air, I thought that that was a little big because especially for it coming out in 2013 and it being 2024, it didn't have a lot of the same capabilities as this guy. But I'm just gonna say that when it comes down to this being like, oh, wrong app. Something like reading comics and that stuff is one of the bigger things, which is like you can get a lot more content when it comes down to this guy. I mean, it's a lot better than trying to read it on your phone, which is, I mean, it's nice, which I read it on my phone sometimes, but this definitely does help when like it comes down to just like, I don't know, reading stories. It also works really well with watching YouTube videos because you can actually zoom this in. Unfortunately, I can't do this very well because, well, I have to use one hand, but it does work pretty well, and also the speakers go pretty loud too.
The one exception to this is the fact that I wear like this ridiculous Rolex.
I think the one thing which I do not like about this iPad is that it doesn't come with a headphone jack. Yes, I know I'm complaining about this, especially with the one iPad that came out in 2018 got rid of the headphone jack. But the nice thing is you can buy a USB-C to headphone jack adapter, which will make things so you can use regular headphones with it. But generally when it comes down to the speakers, this is like full-blown stereo-wise because there's actually 4 like drivers on each side. You can tell from like the holes, and it's totally fine. It actually sounds pretty good. It's not as good as the MacBook Air or even something like the Panasonic boombox, but I'd rather take this if it means listening to music. I mean, it works pretty well with like if you're wanting to mix music like on something like DJ, which I mean totally works pretty well since you got a bigger space to be able to mix music with. Something else which I can also say, which is a big game changer with this guy, is the battery life. It's totally fine for what it is. I don't use it all the time, which is fine. I mean, I guess for people who need to use an iPad, I'm pretty sure that it could keep you away from the wall outlet. But it's one of the biggest things of like, if this can last all day, then it's a good thing. But if it also is a case where you don't use it all the time, you need to have a device that's fully charged, it's good for what it is, because I've had this guy like hold its battery pretty well. It's not as good as something as like probably like the iPad Pro, but it actually works pretty well if it's on standby mode. Like you don't use it every couple of days, it'll last. I also really like the fact that this also has USB-C, which I did mention that earlier, but USB-C also means you can connect up other accessories like SSDs or any of that stuff and look at it on the iPad. Like I have an SSD which runs on USB-C, and there's some moments where I don't want to get my MacBook out, so this guy really helps out. And if there was a case where I needed to bring an SSD or something and then show other projects or something, then this actually helps out too, because I don't have to bring a full-blown laptop with me. I can just bring this. I think the next thing which I can talk about are the cameras, which, I mean, the cameras themselves are, I mean, they're not the greatest, take note. The iPad's cameras have always been somewhat behind when it comes down to Apple devices, because just they've never have caught up in the camera quality department, but they're totally fine as it is. I think for itself, let's just take a picture real quickly and actually see how this works. One massive detail which I will also say is that the front-facing camera itself, if you're using other apps, let's say you're using, let's say like, I don't know, let's say you're using something like, I don't know, StreamYard, the camera will try to keep up on you when it comes down to like trying to keep you in frame and that stuff, which yes isn't an advantage, but also if you're trying to show stuff, let's say, I don't know, if there was something that you wanted to show, it will try to focus on you unless there's a face in it which it'll focus itself on, which that's a bad thing.
And
Oh yeah.
Of course it has to be.
It's trying to zoom in on her face.
Oh my gosh.
It won't stop.
It's gonna make people sick, I swear. The iPad's gonna make people sick.
Whoa, 3D. The iPad will do literally everything to keep Ethan in frame. Will do literally everything to keep Ethan in frame. Government!
Hey, I want to give it something.
Here's the video test on the iPad, and we got ourselves a video. And as you can see, yes, the zoom is not that long, it's only 3x. This is also the front-facing camera, and as you can see, it is basically fully zoomed out. You can see a lot of the room as well, which is nice because it's like, not only does the camera show a lot more, but it also gives more detail as well. I mean, you could see the shirt and everything. I'm just gonna slowly go back to the other camera. I mean, this is only zoomed in as well, so this is like, you can't see anything as much. I mean, I would have to do a lot more to be able to show, but it's not bad. Probably the microphone's pretty good too. One thing which I do absolutely like is I do absolutely love the idea of multitasking on this guy, because it's like, the idea of multitasking or using more other apps and that stuff is a massive help, because it's like, if you want to use other apps while, let's say you're using Discord or using YouTube, it helps out a lot, because it's like, I mean, I could probably go into, let's say Webtoon. Oh, I can't do Webtoon. Not supported. Let's say you wanted to do YouTube and Reddit. You could totally do that. You could totally have it like where you can show like two things at once. It helps. I honestly, that's one of the bigger things with like iPads, is that you can actually do it like that. And it doesn't really matter which way you go either, because you could do it like that. You could literally have like a short plane on one side and then literally just... I think the only thing which I don't like about the iPad is I don't really have any dislikes with the iPad or anything. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I like it. Like, I do enjoy it. I mean, I don't use it as much as like my iPhone or even my MacBook, but it does actually have that use, which, I mean, like last year I said that I don't use iPads, and then a couple months later I bought this iPad, which, I mean, okay, so final thoughts, it's a great device. I think nowadays it's not as good of a purchase because of the 11th gen iPad that came out a couple weeks ago. But I do say that for me, I don't really regret my purchase. I mean, the price of like $329, because I was able to price check it, it's a decent price. I mean, I paid full in it, so it's like, it means something. But it's also a case where I would honestly say that against my iPad Air, it's certainly an upgrade. This also is a case where it's like, it can kind of, I don't want to say it basically becomes your entire computer, but it basically is, I definitely say it's one of those guys where if you were traveling and you needed something to show files on or get the general work done, then this is good to use if you needed light work or any of that stuff. So I'm gonna say thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later when I talk about watches. Yes, that's not an Apple Watch anymore. That's not an Apple Watch. Bye.